رب ارزقنا اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه وتوكل الله وكفى بالله وكيلا. I'm trying to cleanse myself of the hyper energies just prior to the recording. So give me a minute, please. What's been keeping me interested in the past 2 days is the cycle of our cycles and circles and cycles. And the fact that there is no before or after, the fact that there is no linear journey, the fact that there are no steps leading anywhere. You begin and then that beginning turns out to also be another kind of ending for you, which turns back into a beginning, which turns back into an ending, turns back into a beginning. So it's the cyclical nature of life that's been keeping me really interested. And I came across this beautiful series, one of the series in Ramzan by Sheikh Umar Suleiman. And the title intrigued me, which is The Day of My Janaza. And I went, this was yesterday, I looked through it, I stayed with it. And a few things that I'd like us to bring into our awareness as we step back into life and to perhaps keep that awareness with us. It started off with how it's interesting that when we die, we are dependent entirely on people to bathe us, to clothe us, and to put us in our grave. In the same way that when we are born, we are dependent entirely on people to bathe us, to clothe us, and to put it in our cradle, our place of rest. And it's interesting that in the same moment as the ghusl is being performed on the body, in the same moment, and this is especially relevant since we've been tracing the journey of the multidimensional soul. In the same moment as the ghusl is being performed on the body, the soul can simultaneously and does simultaneously have access to the unseen realms. So a part of that soul is witness to, because ek parda ut gaya unke upar se. So a part of them, a part of the soul is a witness to the unseen realm, and the other part is aware of the body being bathed and clothed in that moment. It is simultaneous awareness of that soul. And they recognize the people. They recognize the people, and this is a weak hadith, but it is there. It says the soul recognizes in that moment the person who is washing them, who is bathing them, who is then clothing them, and then जो लोग उनका जनाजा आके उठा रहे होते हैं, the soul recognizes them. And in the same way that an angel presides over our birth, the entire process of birth. Did you know that, by the way? That an angel which has been, whose entire duty is to preside over the entire process of birth for souls who are meant to come into this world fully. Or even if they're not, they're just meant to stay guard over it, whether they end up entering this world or end up going back to the realm of the unseen. There's an angel that presides over the entire process of birth. The pura labor ho rahi hai till the time that the child has come into the world and has been safely delivered in the hand of the dai or the doctor. And इसी तरह there's an angel that presides over our funeral. While we are being bathed and clothed and then wrapped up, हमारा जनाजा जब तक उठ नहीं जाता, तो then angel is presiding over. And at the time that the body is being given the ghusl, the soul, the righteous soul, the one who is राजी मर्जा, जिससे जो अपने रब से राजी है और राजी और उनका रब उनसे राजी है. I love this though. The righteous soul से बेहतर राजी मर्जा, वो सोल जो अपने रब से राजी थी और फिर उनका रब उनसे राजी था, दोनों चीज. बट वो सोल जो अपने रब से राजी थी, ये वो सोल है. The soul that began to understand its Rab over the many highs and lows that they'd spent in their life, over, the calms and the storms, through the calms and the storms, not in spite of the storms, but through the calms and through the storms. The soul that began to understand the true nature of their Rab. The soul which had begun to understand कि कोई सजा नहीं है यहाँ पे, बस एक लर्निंग है. कि कोई हतमी फैसला नहीं है यहाँ पे, बस एक पोटेंशियल है. अभी कोई फैसला दिया नहीं गया. This beautiful ayat in Quran, which again it depends on the frequency which is engaging with it, but this is Surah Al-Araf, ayah number 7. And Allah Ta'ala says, as for those who deny our signs, we will draw them imperceptibly into ruin from where they do not know. And I will grant them respite, whatever, for my devising is indeed sure. मैं उनको थोड़ी सी मोहलत दूंगा. And from the immediate onset, it feels like बस अगर हमने कोई चीज अपने पर जुल्म करना शुरू किया है, तो अल्लाह ताला कह रहे हैं कि आप अपने पर जुल्म करते ही रहोगे. But what we're not really looking into, so beautiful, because the word that's used in this ayah is a sanastadir. Sanastadir juhum. इसके अंदर जो वर्ड है istidraj. It means going step by step. It's a gradual movement. It's a gradual movement to one side. In this context, that gradual movement means that it's going towards destruction because it is to one side. But what it also says is that this mohlat that's been given, this leeway that's been given, and I will give them a leeway for my devising is indeed sure, could go one of two ways. Either it would lead to an awakening and the person would turn back to God, or it would lead further into further zulm and cement the downfall. So ये जो मोहलत दी हुई है हमें, this place called in between, the times, the number of times and the intensity with which we do zulm upon ourselves, which is how in the different ways that we wound ourselves to when we begin to experience the consequence of that wounding. There is a space between that. And it is that space that Allah Ta'ala speaks of when he says कि मैं एकदम से intercede नहीं करता. मैं intercede नहीं करता, because that space is the space of pure potential. यहाँ पे अभी कुछ decide नहीं हुआ. Yes, your people that you love may have already given that decision. The judge, jury, and execution of the society may have already given the decision. Your ulama might have given the decision. Your Maulvi might have given this decision. The leaders might have given the decision. Allah has not. Because if Allah's decision had come, you would not have been alive under the weight of it, which is Qiyamah. Allah's decision only comes in Qiyamah. Like the Hatmi Faisla only comes then. But before that, in this dunya as well, remember we spoke of how at the time that you do something that benefits your soul, the angel immediately, without a blink, writes it down and then amplifies it like tenfold, as if पता नहीं हमने छोटी सी चीज की थी, उसने उसके ऊपर into 10 करके लिख दिया. But जब हम लोग अपने ऊपर, on the left side, when we do a zulm, the angel on the right says to the angel on the left, stop. You are not meant to write it down for the next at least 7 hours. So that's the even write it down. अभी ये रहमत की मोहलत नहीं है. अभी just the fact that it's going to be documented. वो वाली मोहलत है. उसमें भी 7 घंटे का वक्फा है. So this place in between, which decides, which is place of pure potential, where one keeps receiving the opportunity to up, 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 do it differently, up, do it differently, up, do it differently. This pure potential, activated or not activated, this pure potential, activated or not activated, at the end of it decides whether it is a soul which is going to be going to Darussalam, or a soul which is going to be waiting for another destination. And this soul, at the time of when our bodies are being given the ghusl, the soul which is Raziul Marza, जो अपने रब से राजी थी, they're given the opportunity to like Allah Ta'ala say, come ascend and come witness your place in paradise. And in the time that your body is being given the ghusl, in that entire time, the soul can stay there. It's happening in parallel. You question the existence of parallel dimensions. Our entire, can't call it a religion, our entire multidimensional highest vibration frequency called Islam is nothing but parallel universes. In the same moment as your body is being given the ghusl, in that moment, your soul is witnessing the one who is Razi and Marza, their place in paradise, place in their own home. Basically, they're getting a glimpse of their home, which is why the wisdom in ghusl is take your time, do it thoroughly, because the soul is really, really, really enjoying their experience of getting a glimpse of their new home. And then another hadith which says that at the time that the soul hears their loved ones wailing out loud, it hurts them, which is why wailing is not allowed in Islam. It doesn't hurt anybody else. It hurts the soul, because the soul is deeply tuned in. The soul is a witness upon their own body. They've not yet exited this realm until they're buried. So they can witness, they can feel the wailing of the ones that they've left behind, and it hurts them. And then as the janazah is taken to the Qabristan, the soul who is Razi with their Rab and with whom the Rab is Razi says, hurry up, because I want to get home quickly. And the one who is not who had not been Razi with their Rab, who persistently did zulm upon their soul, would say, slow down. Where am I being taken? Slow down. And in Hadith, it is said that the sound of the voice that they make, the voice of their wailing, the voice of that soul which says, slow down, where am I? Woe to me, where am I being taken? Woe to me. The voice is so loud and it's so deep in despair. And Allah Ta'ala says, the whole universe, every creature in the universe can hear that voice except for human beings. ये उनके ऊपर पर्दा है, because अगर वो सुनते तो वो बेहोश हो जाते. And also the parda is why, because abhi ye aapka waqt nahi aaya. Do not despair. With this despair, you still have access to your field of pure potential. Subhanallah. And it is this field of pure potential, this cycle where there is nothing as, and I really want us to feel into it, especially as we move into the divine names of arc and descent, which are Allah's names, the names which scare us. Ya Mui-zz Ya Muzzil, the honorer or the strengthener, and Ya Muzzil, the dishonorer or the weakener. Or as we move into the other pair of Allah's names, the arc of ascent and descent, Ya Mumit, Ya Muhyi. Mumit is the one who brings death, and Muhyi is the one who brings life. Subhanallah. As we move into this circle, which is the circle of life, which is the circle which is Haqq, which is in exactly the way we come into this world, is the way that we exit the world, except that when we come into the world, we have access to the full field of potential. And as we exit the world, we exit with the the potential that we have actualized. So really in this life, there is no such thing as izzat or zillat. Subhanallah. There is no such thing as good or bad. There is no such thing as rest or unrest. There is no such thing as distress or peace or ease. In this life, all there is pure potential. Either it is actualized potential, which is what we call peace, or it's non-actualized potential, which we call distress. There is no such thing as good or bad in this world. It is all a world of pure potential. Subhanallah. Because as I sat down to understand the concept of and the wisdom of the arc and descent of Ya Mui-zz Ya Muzzil, Ya Mui-zz is the honorer or the strengthener. And Ya Muzzil is the one who weakens. So there's one aspect of Allah which raises you up in honor, and the other, and the only source who has the power to bring you down in shame, feel into the arc, raises you up in honor and brings you down. Feels like an unjust God, right? Until you begin to understand that the root word of Ya Muzzil is the one who seeks, the one who yearns for the object of a long cherished wish. Ya Muzzil is zillat dene wala nahi hai. Ya Muzzil is a point in our life, the lowest of the low, where our ego, our self says, you are teacher. There is no depth to go below than where you have gone, where the people looking upon you, your friends or your family say, इससे ज़्यादा क्या गिरोगे आप? इससे नीचे कौन सी जगह है? Where you feel like your Allah has judged you. Your creator has judged you and given up on you because he was the one who promised you कि वो आपके ऊपर पर्दे डालेंगे. ये क्या बात है कि दिन दिहाड़े आपने मेरे ऊपर से मेरे veils उठाए? Itni zillat. And so there's a part of you that is in deep angst. There's a part of us that is in deep angst and in deep rejection by our creator. And then the sheer fact that we want our creator to be perfect, don't we? We want him to be always like in love with us and in love with us and in love with us and always to just keep giving us beautiful things, because in so far as we've begun to understand him, he is all love. So why yank me down to the depth of this hell? Why do this, Ya Muzzil? Why is this even a part of your being? How is this an expression of your divinity? Do you call this divinity? And as Allah is my witness, though, there are some souls like me, for example, who have been able to find their own light only in the creature of them. And so there was no God passing judgment on me being brought down to the depths of my core. There was the same Allah in absolute love. He said, hey, I know another way. It may be a little drastic, but I know another way, another way where you can realize your soul's potential. It's a little drastic, but you'll be able to, I know another way. There is an Allah, Ya Muzzil, Ya Muzzil, Ya Muzzil. There is an Allah that has refused in this moment to give up on me and will always refuse to give up on me. And he will try everything in his power to make sure that I am not given a single moment of not at least being exposed to the potential of realizing my own potential. And so the arc of descent. So begins our arc of descent. And in this arc of descent, Allah is saying, hey, it is this arc of descent, again, ascent and descent is a judgment, is a perceived judgment. One is good, the other is not. But we have been we have been taught about how there is no arc or descent, or if there were an arc and descent, then the descent becomes your ascent through you actualizing your soul's potential in the same way that Hazrat Adam began his arc of descent. And in the moment that he stepped into with the willingness to actualize his own soul potential, which is the soul potential of humanity, in that moment began his ascent back into heavens. There is no descent that exists without it carrying the message of the potential of the energy of ascent. There is no potential energy without there being kinetic energy within it. And this beautiful invocation of Ya Mui-zz Ya Muzzil, Ya Muzzil, Ya Mui-zz Ya Muzzil, Ya Muzzil, whatever works better for me right now, Muddil is working better. Ya Mui-zz Ya Muzzil. When we allow ourselves to not be attached to the goodness of one part of us and the badness of one part of us. This part of Madiha I like. This part of Madiha I dislike. This part of Madiha makes her parents happy. This part of Madiha does not make the parents happy. This part of Madiha people like. This part of Madiha should probably remain home today. This judgment that we begin to see ourselves with where we are, because the arc of descent, the only moment it turns into the descent of Iblis is when we give up on ourselves. And in psychological terms, the giving up on ourselves is the alienation of self. We have alienated ourselves from that self that we do not like, that we abhor, the one that is disgusting, the one that is judged. We stand in judgment of that self. When we alienate ourselves from that self, that is the beginning of all psychological and social and mental and emotional dis-ease. And so, Ya Mui-zz Ya Muzzil is this beautiful sorcerer's invocation where a multidimensional soul of pure magic is witnessing the pendulum, witnessing the rise and fall of their own scales right in front of them. Ya Mui-zz Ya Muzzil. And the objective of the invocation of Ya Mui-zz Ya Muzzil is to, as we let the pendulum oscillate crazily from one point to the other, or the way the scales shift madly from one point to the other, we want through the invocation to reach a point, to hit a point where there is a gentle balance between the rotation, between the shifts, where we are neutralizing Ya Mui-zz Ya Muzzil, the judgment that we hold against parts of ourselves, where we are neutralizing so that they come into balance. So we begin to realize that in the good parts of us is pure potential. In the, so to speak, bad parts of us is pure potential. All there is pure potential. That's a whole life, pure potential. And this balancing of ourselves. And look at how within, the most beautiful, another thing, Ya Mui-zz Ya Muzzil is also not just used to balance out the parts, the rejected and the humiliated and the dishonored and the in despair parts of ourselves. It's not just used to do that. Here's something else that it does so incredibly, because when there are veils, when we begin to veil our vision, the veils are not just of darkness, they're veils of light as well, which is what, in very simple terms, it's called spiritual egoism, etc. But they're veils of light as well. But in the human terms, it could be looked at as a person who takes a lot of pride in doing good. And not a pride in terms from a balanced perspective, pride, but like that's the identity that they have. They're known as a philanthropist. And that's who they are. So they're doing good, but there's a lot of pride there. Or there's a lot of pride in the fact that they are healers. Like they're doing a lot of good, but there's some sense of I there. Ya Mui-zz Ya Muzzil, subhanallah, plays an equally balancing role for Ya Mui-zz as well. जो अपनी इस वक्त अपने ascent के arc में खड़ा हुआ है. Again, no such thing as bad or good, हाँ, अपने ascent के arc में खड़ा हुआ है और उस ascent के arc में भी उसके ऊपर एक पर्दा है. Remind ourselves of what Muzzil feels like. It's a yin and yang. It's a balancer. Ya Mui-zz Ya Muzzil, Ya Mui-zz Ya Muzzil. And if you feel called to it, I'm just going to just take both your hand, put both your hands, hands out, palms up, as if you're holding light balls on the palms of each of your hands. And as you say Ya Mui-zz Ya Muzzil, it's almost like you're very gently, how do I call it? It's not juggling, right? Very gently, uh, balancing these balls up and down, balancing these balls like a seesaw would, right, on both hands. So Ya Mui-zz, your left hand goes up. Ya Muzzil, your right hand goes up. Ya Mui-zz, your left hand goes up. Ya Muzzil, your right hand goes up. Ya Mui-zz. So it's like you're feeling into the energy of Ya Mui-zz, Ya Muzzil, Ya Mui-zz, Ya Muzzil, until you want to reach a point where your hands come into, they're not moving up and down. You want to come to a point where, as you are invoking Ya Mui-zz Ya Muzzil, your hands are both stationary, because now you've neutralized and now you've just accessed the field of pure potential, pure potential. And this is what we seek when we get back into this life, don't we? We have big things happening in our life, but we want to call them good things or bad things. So when good things happen, we're okay. When bad things happen, we panic. And the entire state of being an observer, the entire state of emotional resilience asks us to do what? To never accept good thing as a good thing or bad thing as a bad thing, by the way. But to ask yourself, why is this thing here and what is it here to teach me, good or bad? It doesn't matter. If you're not learning from something, that's the problem. How you're learning is not the problem. If you're not learning from something is the problem. And as soon as we ask the question, what is this moment here to teach me? What must I learn from it? Help me receive the wisdom of it and help me pass through it with ease and grace. The moment that you have set this clear compass, this clear direction, the answer in that moment has already been given to you, and now it must reveal itself to you. When the answer reveals itself to you, the answer will always be a mirror. It will either show you a deep wound that you're carrying, or it will show you a way to inspire you more into the place that you'd like to be in. So either way, it is here to help you. Either way, it's here to activate your pure potential. Either way, it's here to hold your hand and to help you move forward one more step. Either way, it's here to help you feel unstuck. Either way, it's here to help you move forward one step from whichever place that we are feeling stuck in. It is only here, whatever it is only here, good or bad, doesn't matter, whatever, only here to help you, to hold your hand and help you take that one step with them. That's it, that one step through the mirror that they've shown. And so as we balance the Ya Mui-zz Ya Muzzil, this energy to a pure field of potential energy, the invocation of these names helps us anchor in the state of being the observer. And it helps us ground it fully. And it helps us even in times when we feel ungrounded by the storms of our life. We can go back to using this Ya Mui-zz Ya Muzzil almost like a physical, somatic, energetic exercise as well, because we're moving our hands up and down, right? Holding the light balls in both our hands, Ya Mui-zz Ya Muzzil, Ya Mui-zz Ya Muzzil, until we want to automatically, we don't want to command our hands. We want our hands, our field of energy to be ready for this energy to stabilize and settle down into our field of energy. Our hands will automatically stabilize, automatically stop moving up and down as you are still reciting Ya Mui-zz Ya Muzzil. This is the state we want to practice as the observer of how life is, because as we step back into the world, we already know that it is not what they have told us to be. It is not what we believed it to be. We already know that nothing in life is permanent, which is excellent news for all of us who have gone through crazy times. We don't want these times to be permanent at all. Thank you very much. So Nothing in life is permanent. All of it is always in motion. And it's so beautiful to be a witness to how things will always be, always have been, and will continue to shift for you. And all we're here to do is to make the journey of ourselves easier upon ourselves. And one way of bringing ease to your journey, of both ease, of both Mui-zz and Muzzil, in both of these moments of pure potential, in both of these moments, one way of doing this is practicing this state of being the observer, this state of balance, जहां कोई अच्छा गलत नहीं है अभी तक, जहां सिर्फ potential. And subhanallah, the Muzzil part, subhanallah, like in the depth where the strongest voice that may be told to you, that may sound like the voice of your mother or the voice of your father, but specifically perhaps your mother, because that's the voice that, especially for the feminine, for the divine feminines, that's the voice. The mother wound is something that we're all being asked to release very, very mindfully and in deep gentleness, but also with deep courage, because it takes a lot. So it's the mother voice that tells you you are not worthy. अब तुमसे कौन शादी करेगा? And how we begin to measure our worth with the number of partners we've had, the number of marriages we've had, the number of children we have, how old we are, what our body type is, what our skin color is, the politeness in which we speak. None of these are measures of judgment for Ya Mui-zz Ya Muzzil. None of these. All the parameters made by the society and made by the religion also. Yes, made by the religion as well. All of the parameters which tell you whether you're a good person or not do not apply when it comes to Allah. Because Allah says this is how it should be. When it is not, I am here. Allah has kept himself exempt from the system. Subhanallah, Allah has created the system. He has designed the system. He has implemented the system. He is organized the system. He is sustaining the system, and he himself is beyond the system, which is, subhanallah, how Allah is even beyond the attributes of his 99 names. And yet, even within the names which have been revealed to us, formally, it is Ya Mui-zz Ya Muzzil. Even in that moment, where you are not being able to access your self-worth, even in that moment, it is Allah who sits with you. As Allah is my witness, as He has sat with me, especially in those moments. Who's going to love me now? Look how dirty my hands are. Look how dirty my eyes are. Look at the state of my face. There is no noor on my face. Look at how my skin is shriveled. Look at the paths that I've walked. Look at how much I'm hurting. Look how much I've hurt. Who's going to love me now? And there's one voice, even when I've had, pills in my stomach and razor blades on my wrists, there is one voice which has said, I am going to love you exactly like this, exactly in this moment. Ya Mui-zz, thrown out of my own house. Abject conditions, completely discarded. Because आप तो एटलीस्ट अगर आप कोई आप रैग थ्रो करते हो तो एक कूड़े वाला है जो आके कम से कम उसको बड़े कूड़ेदान में पहुंचा देता है. But then there's another way of discarding where you don't even throw it in the dustbin. You just chuck it out. It is that Mui-zz. That is Muzzil, sorry. That is that moment. And however we have been in the big ways or small ways, we have experienced those moments in extreme ways or small ways in our life, discarded, and rejected. And in that moment, you begin to evoke Ya Mui-zz Ya Muzzil. You do not, even in that moment, subhanallah, notice how Allah Ta'ala, Allah, फील इनटू इट। अल्लाह ताला ने हमेशा क्या कहा जाता है कि जो आपके आंख एंड डिसेंड के अल्लाह के नाम है उनको अलहदा ना आप रिसाइट करो। तो मतलब ये दिस कहा नहीं जाता दिस इज बरहक, यू आर नॉट मेंट टू रिसाइट देम सेपरेटली। चलो व्हेन यू आर या मोइज, व्हेन यू आर इन अ स्टेट ऑफ असेंट, तो समझ में आती है कि भाई हमें डर लगता है मोइज से, सॉरी मुजिल से, तो हमें ना अलहदा हमें हमें अलहदा नहीं रिसाइट करने चाहिए, हम लोग एक साथ रिसाइट करते हैं। बट when you are in a state of descent, which is which is muzzil, समझ में आती है कि आप खाली या मुइज रिसाइड करो, राइट? क्योंकि आप तो नीचे हो और आपने ऊपर जाना है, लॉजिकली तो ये समझ में आएगी। Allah Ta'ala says, no, thank you. There is no niche upar in this moment. The moment you begin to invoke your Rab, who is not of this system, the designer of this system and not of this system, you invoke him, you remember him in this moment. He is, are you telling me that in as Ya Mu'izz, you're only going to call out to, sorry, in Mudil, you're only going to call out to Ya Mu'izz? Are you going to tell me that I'm not here with you? Are you going to reject me here? No, acknowledge that I'm here with you. Subhan, I'm going to sit here with you. अल्लाह ताला says, मैं यहाँ पे तुम्हारे साथ बैठा हूं ना, तो मुझे तुम एक्नॉलेज करो। तो अगर तो अपनी एक गहराई में हो तो सिर्फ या मोइज मत बोलो, मैं तुम्हारे साथ बैठा हूँ। एक्नॉलेज, स्टैंड विटनेस ओवर द फैक्ट दैट आई एम सिटिंग हियर विद यू। सो से या मोइज या मुद्हिल, say that I'm here with you. Stand witness, bear witness over the fact that your Allah did not leave you alone. Bear witness over it. And the universe will bear witness over the fact that he did not. So we were not even meant to rope ourselves up from this place of gehrai, of pasti. Nahi yaar. Ya mu'izz ya muzzil. उस मुजिल मोमेंट में भी आप कहोगे मुजिल, एक्नॉलेज करोगे। ये नहीं कि मैं एक्नॉलेज फ्रॉम व्हाट प्लेस, एक्नॉलेज ये नहीं कि मैं तुम्हें यहाँ पे लेकर आया हूँ, नहीं। अल्लाह ताला ने कहा ला इलाहा इल्ला अंता सुब्हानक इन्नी कुन्तु मिनज़ ज़ालिमीन, आप यहाँ पे आए हो। या मुजिल मीन्स आई विल नॉट लीव यू अलोन इन द लोएस्ट ऑफ लोज ऑफ यू। सुभान अल्लाह, लुक हाउ दे हैव ट्राइड टू टीच अस व्हाट यामो इज। एक इज्जत देने वाला और इज्जत लेने वाला, एक इज्जत देने वाला और जिल्लत देने वाला, ये नहीं है नाम अल्लाह के। या मुजिल इज जहां पे आपकी सबसे ज्यादा डिसऑनर है, वहां भी तुम्हारे साथ बैठा हूं, मैं ये वो हूं। आई एम नॉट योर लॉफ्टी अल्लाह, which is why I love the book God of Small Things. I'm not the Lord of the skies and the stars and the cosmoses only. I'm the Lord of your scars. I'm the Lord of your wounds. I'm the Lord of your heart. I'm the Lord of all your zillat. I'm the Lord of all your dishonor. I'm your same Lord. तुम कर लो जो तुमने करना है. I am still your Rab. फबिया लाई रबी कमा तकाज़िबान, कहाँ जाओगी? फॉर मी इट्स नॉट लाइक मेरी कौन कौन सी नेमतों को जुटलाओगे, ये तो मुझे कभी समझ ही नहीं ना, ये क्या मतलब कौन कौन सी नेमतों को जुटलाओगे। ही डजंट नीड फॉर अस टू एक्नॉलेज एनीथिंग। समझ सिर्फ ये आई है कि कहाँ जाओगी बेटा, भाग लो जहाँ जाना है। Sorry, I got a call from home. My daughter is at home and I had to pick it up. Okay. So thank you for waiting. Okay. So he's not the pure Allah who needs to be bathed in incense and invoked with wazu and bowed down to in places of purity, जहाँ पे गंद ना हो, कीचड़ ना हो, आपके अंदर गंद ना हो, आपके अंदर कीचड़ ना हो। ये वो अल्लाह है नहीं एक्चुअली। हम चाहते हैं कि वो अल्लाह हो क्योंकि we want to somehow be these angelic versions of ourselves which are not haq. And because we are in such constant practice of rejecting the hurting parts of us and of shutting them up in closed cupboards and in basements, and then attaching such shame and guilt to them, never wanting to even look at them, क्योंकि उंगलियां लग जाती हैं, and then we are so used to punishing ourselves for everything that goes, air quote, wrong in our life, which otherwise is just field of pure potential. But because of the fact that we've shut away so many of our rejected parts behind them, they are the ones who are now standing in judgment of you, saying, अच्छा तुमने हमें shut off किया है, इसलिए अब तुम्हारे साथ ये हो रहा है. इस सारी कहानी का between you and you, जहाँ पे it's you who has shut off parts of yourself and now who are all ridden in shame and guilt, and now are standing on judgment of you, and now all of your entire vibration is of shame and judgment, and we're looking out into the world and it's all shame and judgment, and somehow we bring in Allah in this entire mix and say, I'm being punished. None of this is about him. उनकी तो अभी तक फैसला ही नहीं आया. There was a time when he used to pass sentences, right? Remember? Like, and even in the Quran, there was a time when his judgment used to be swift and immediate. When he says, okay, persist, Pagambar, Rasul, Pagambar, 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 Vadi Tafalla, reject, 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 come storm, destroy civilization, begin anew. There used to be a time when it was Legoland here. And subhanAllah, there used to be a time when not just civilizations were created and destroyed, there used to be a time when, and again, it's in Surah Baqarah, in a specific ayah, कि आपकी शक्लें जो हैं वो change हो जाती थी. शक्लें आपकी change हो जाती थी based on your deeds. So we used to, like, there is some Darwinian theory is not all incorrect. Not because we've come from them, but there used to be a yes, we would up to, because there's a strong hadith where Allah Ta'ala says, okay, till you are, and this came for after Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam came into the world. He said, from this point till the end of time, people's faces will not change. People's faces will not change. But their inner will continue to change, and I will stand in judgment of them at one point. I will not immediately pass my judgment upon them. So this was a given. This came to us. This was given as a rahmat, as a karam from Allah. So abhi Allah ki judgment aayi nahi hai. But everybody is very quick, like they really want the judgment to be here. Therefore, the strong judgment from everybody else about Allah. And Allah is not standing in judgment. Allah has nothing to do with all of this. So, Mui-zz Ya Muzzil actually helps us bring our state, our qalb back into balance, where we stand in strong judgment and strong rejection of ourselves. And very linked to this name of Allah, ascent, arc of ascent and descent, is Ya Mumit, Ya Muhi, which is the one who brings death and the one who brings life. This one is more acceptable somehow for us, because we have it's easier for us to accept the coming and parting. It's more difficult for us to accept the dishonor and honor within our own life. Isn't that strange? But it is. That is how it is. How it is. So, but in any case, when we look at Ya Mumit, Ya Muhi, Muhi is the one which is the one who brings life. We connect with more because there's a light aspect to Allah. और हमें भी बहुत love light है ना, issues in life, light, all love, all light. तो जो love light aspect है ना, मतलब the biggest shadow worker there is Allah Ta'ala, right? उनके नामों के अंदर shadow working है. Subhanallah. Ya Mumit, Ya Muhi. Utna hi relevance of life as is for death. Utna hi relevance. And that is the balance that he asks us to achieve. And especially, this is especially relevant for those of us who are grieving. Not being able to, because there's no such thing as letting go of grief, but it's not being able to expand the sidr, the chest, enough to be able to hold the grief, because abhi bahut imbalance mein hai wo jo agar again we bring our palms back into play, and in one hand we are holding Ya Mumit ka ball, light ball, and the other one we're holding Ya Muhi ka light ball, and Ya Mumit, Ya Muhi, Ya Mumit, Ya Muhi, as we begin to deliberately move our palms up and down until inshallah they will come into a balance on their own self. We begin to realize there is an imbalance within us, a rejection of, a non-acceptance of the haq of death. and the haqq of the fact that there is no life without it, the haqq of the fact that things must be torn apart, that things must dissolve for new ones to be born. And there is a rejection of this balance and this principle of life that comes into play in our personal life also. So the big version of it is grief, of the grief of loss, of those who have left, who have physically left. And the how it plays out is the coming and parting of people and things and ideas and dreams, the ones that we could not hold on to, the ones which we did not want to stay with us, the ones which were meant to leave. Again, people or ideas or desires or dreams or things or events, all of those. And when we find ourselves struggling with accepting things as they are, instead of trying to fight change them, because trying to change things is in human nature, and it's a beautiful thing because that is the activation of potential energy, transformation of potential energy to kinetic energy. But fight change is not, and we try to fight change things, and fight change things is get into a boxing match with that. No, 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 reject, reject. ऐसा नहीं हो सकता, ऐसा नहीं. I want to hold on, mind, 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 hold on, can't go, can't go, can't go, stay, 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 whatever it takes. Tell me what do I need to do? Just stay, 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 stay. This is fight change. And this imbalance, whether it is again of our dreams, ideas, or people, creates this energetic imbalance within ourselves because we are rejecting the life, the flow of life and the haqq of life. We're rejecting it. And it is that balance that we are asked to invoke through Ya Mumit Ya Mohi. And the most beautiful, one of the incredible hidden depths of Allah within Allah's names is when we are invoking, especially the names of arc and descent together. There is a third factor, subhanallah. I didn't know that. There's a third factor. So there is a name of Jamal. When you're looking at the name of our, by the way, this is also Zul Jalali wal Ikram also. Huh? It's one. It's meant to be used as recited, invoked as one. But as we recite Ya Mumit, Ya Muhi, for example, within these two names, there will be one which will be that of Jamal, and the other which one would be of Jalal. Jamal, which will bring us peace and safety and security, the feminine energy. And the other would be the one that would push us into action and disturb us at some level because it's the field of potential transforming into kinetic energy, which is masculine energy. Yahmohi. So हमेशा अल्लाह के आर्क एंड डिसेंट में एक जमाल होते हैं और एक जलाल होते हैं. Word. And then comes the third one, the great balancer that encompasses the both, which is called Kamal, which just is. It doesn't hold opposing qualities. It just is. And for Ya Mumit, Ya Muhyi, it's the Kamal is Ya Hayy, the everlasting, the everlasting. And notice how, as we bring in the Kamal word, the Kamal name of Allah, beyond Ya Mumit, Ya Muhi, this is the balance that we desire to reach. Ya Mumit is one stage, Ya Muhi is another. Invoking the both, we want to reach that balance. If that balance were to be called something, in English, it's called the observer. If that balance in this case were to be called something, it would be Ya Hayy. And similarly, the Kamal name of Allah in Ya Mui-zz Ya Muzzil is Ya Malikul Mulk, the Allah of all dimensions, the lowest of the low and the highest of the highest. Subhanallah. Do you see the energy shift just by bringing in the third name of Allah? Subhanallah. And this is what we're reminded of as we step back into the world. That all there ever is this beautiful justice of Allah, is this beautiful hikmat of Allah. If we're not being able to find the hikmat And hikmat, remember going back to hakama, hikmat is the rope that ties one so that we don't fall apart. So things don't fall apart. The rope that ties the camel so it doesn't get lost. Hikmat is also the lower part of the jaw that holds the face up so it doesn't fall apart. Hikmat is what holds things together so they do not fall apart. So if we're not being able to have the access to hikmat, do not seek it in the obvious answers of the translations and what people have told you and what Maulvi Saab is saying and what your mother has told you and what your Dadi Amma has even told you, unless there is hikmat in there, subhanallah, then yes. But seek the hikmat, because when you receive the hikmat, I promise you, hikmat will always come with one very specific litmus test. And that litmus test is you will not be desiring any explanation from Allah of the strongest life circumstance that you have. One, ask Allah for hikmat. And when you receive, you will know you have received the hikmat when you stop asking him, why me? Why did you do this for me, to me? Because hikmat tells you, beta, it's for you. Hikmat tells you it's field of pure potential. Hikmat tells you कि ये जो जिल्लत जिसमें आप खड़े हैं is your field of potential energy, and it's the only and the strongest and the most potent field of potential energy. What are you going to do with it? And that hikmat tells you in this place you are not alone, and let whoever tells you you're alone in this place, let whoever tells you कि तुम अल्लाह की judgment की जो तुम्हारे ऊपर पास हुई है इसलिए तुम यहाँ पे खड़ी हो, इसलिए तुम इतनी जलील हो रही हो, इसलिए तुम्हें ये तुम्हारे साथ ये सारी चीजें, you deserve this, this is your Allah's, this is your karma, this is Allah's judgment on you, this is not haq. या मुइज़ या मुज़िल, उस मोमेंट में आप अकेले नहीं खड़े हो, मैं अकेली नहीं खड़ी हूँ, अल्लाह मेरे साथ खड़े हैं, मेरा हाथ पकड़े हुए, अल्लाह की जजमेंट पास नहीं हुई है. And that is hikmat, when you begin to realize कि अगर जो चीज मुझे एक वो पोटेंशियल है और एक ये पोटेंशियल है, एक हमारा जन्नत का पोटेंशियल है, एक हमारा दुनिया का पोटेंशियल, दोनों प्योर पोटेंशियल है. उस जन्नत के पोटेंशियल से हम लोग डिस्कार्ड नहीं हुए. टू बी एबल टू असेंड बैक टू दैट पोटेंशियल वी हैड टू कम टू दिस दुनिया. The birth and the cycle of birth and death is just. The cycle of ascent and descent is just. The cycle of health and disease is just. The cycle of giving and receiving and taking and receiving, losing, things going away and things coming our way is just. The cycle where there is great wounding and there is great generosity of hearts at the same time is just. And until Allah has not passed judgment upon his creation, do not pass that judgment upon yourself, and do not pass it on people that we know, no matter how terrible, no matter how terrible, no matter how terrible. It is not, you're not their creator. You have no right. You have no right to give anybody badua. Our Prophet never raised his hands, never sallallahu alaihi wasallam, against his enemies, never raised his hands for dua. उन्होंने उनके लिए दुआ नहीं की, पर उनको बद्दुआ नहीं दी. It is not the sunnah of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it is not the sunnah of Allah to, even if it is a place of great wounding, dua mat karo, but bad dua bhi mat do. And in the same principle, even when we are standing in places of great lowness, don't give up on yourself, because the one who has not, there is one who has not, and he never will. He never ever will. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.